everybody. Welcome back to Girl Fix Your Finances. So today we have Christina Shahid with us today. And Christina is the CEO and founder of the Paid Lifestyle LLC for the past 10 years. She has honed her craft in financial services and business development and has dedicated herself to sowing that knowledge into others. She specializes in helping people establish, maintain financial freedom and abundance through personal financial makeovers. I love that. Through wealth building boot camps and purpose driven strategies. She teaches her clients how to create multiple streams of income and live their lives on purpose. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So I want to I like to point out quickly that it's not as common for women to go into finance, and it's still a huge deficit in women in this space. So how did you get your start? How did you decide to go into finance?
Got it. I would say that it found me instead of me finding it. And what I want to say is, I think in each and every one of our lives, we have defining moments. And it was actually a serious defining moment that actually brought this into my world. And so for me, in 2006, I actually was in a management position, had a nice job, and was laid off. And at that time, I was a single mom. I had two beautiful daughters. And the reality was, I learned very quick that whoever has control of your finances has a huge control over a lot of your life and circumstances. Okay. So where I live, what I drive, the school my kids go to, the life I could expose them to was based on that one income. And the defining moment for me was never again will I be put in a position where I have one stream of income and where someone else is controlling my finances. And so from that point on, I decided, one, I needed to learn more about money. And two, I needed to have multiple streams of income. And so that's how my life got shifted. That is how I got geared into the financial services industry. And that was the first thing I did. I actually got an opportunity and was introduced to a company that taught me about finances, gave me an opportunity to start building a business in the financial industry and also getting financial licenses. And then from that point, I just kept going and kept moving. And I think a lot of times the combination of real life experience, that the passion of where I came from and wanting to serve others just kind of merged together. And I just stuck with the industry.
Okay, awesome. So when in your management position, was that finance related? What was that? What?
Not at all. I actually was in client relations at the time. So I was a client relations manager over an entire department. Yeah. And so it was like shifting and then ultimately losing that position. And I said, we can never get comfortable with one source, one opportunity. And we have to be able to, like we diversify our money, you need to diversify your income as well.
Right. And so I just love that you were not already in finance and you realized this and then took action. And it's funny, you're like, we can't get comfortable. We can't rely on one source. And yet our whole lives, we're programmed to do that. We're educated to do that. We are educated both formally in school, but also by our parents and by our social group is you go to school, get the education, get the job, and then get comfortable. and then be under the control of whoever is controlling the purse strings. So you said multiple streams of income, and I think that sentence or that fragment intimidates a lot of people. I think people say multiple streams of income, it sounds like, so is that like multiple jobs?
No. Feel free to clarify. So multiple streams of income does not have to mean that you have multiple jobs. So you don't have to perfect everything and try to grab some of the money from one industry, another industry. You literally can diversify what you are doing what you're passionate about, or what you have an expertise in.
Right.
One, I do say that not having a job, just having a job isn't sufficient. Okay. That's not something that you can control. And at any time, that employer, depending on what's going on with their world, their finances, the pandemic that happened,
Exactly.
you can lose that job. That's not something you have control over. And so I always tell people, I am all for it. If you have a passion, you love your job, and you're doing what you love, absolutely. Keep your job, but you should always have something else that you are passionate about, that you're growing, that you can leave a legacy for your family. You can't leave your job to your family, but if you create and build something, you can leave that to your children and your children's children. And so with whatever that is, you can diversify it. So let's say I'm in the financial industry.
Yeah.
So I make money multiple ways in financing. One, through coaching people. Two, being able to have intellectual property in products that I can service to people. Three, you can write ebooks, and you can do group coaching where you're leveraging teaching multiple people for an income. All of this is in finances, but I am just diversifying how I'm making income within the same industry. You can have your brand that you have, and have t-shirts, and have, there's so many things you can do within whatever your brand is, whatever your business is, and still diversify. And of course, on a personal level, I deal with stocks and dividends and trading for myself, and that brings in additional income outside of just my business relations as well. And so there are many ways to diversify your income.
Okay, so when you have electronic products like you have,
Yeah.
and you work and you have like just a web-based business, how would you say, what are your thoughts about when we're having like a little bit of an economic downturn with the pandemic? How does that impact your business?
Okay. I think with everyone, I will say everyone is not impacted, and I'll kind of get into that. When it comes to finances, no matter how our hardship is, we all make choices on what we want to spend our money on.
You do.
Like, I'm amazed in the middle of this pandemic, Amazon is growing like crazy.
Yes, it is.
Boxes are being delivered on a daily basis to people's homes,
Mhm.
even though millions of people have lost their job. A lot of people are struggling, but people tend to still invest and do what they want.
What they
Even if
want.
they even if they do it from a place of, because they're lacking, they need it. Sometimes people shop because, look, we haven't been able to buy anything all month. I'm just buying this because I want it. And emotionally, they need something to feed them or please them. And so you have to put yourself in a position, especially in a time like this, where you show yourself as a need. Does that make sense? And so
Oh, yes.
I'm hurting financially. I don't know what to do financially. No, people may not have the income to possibly work with me one-on-one or a VIP client, but people do have the income if I make sure that I'm providing a service that can be, sold at a lower, something that's $20 that they can afford. And then, more people have access to it. And so sometimes you just have to pivot and you have to shift what you're doing. So maybe in a good time, you can have a product or service that costs hundreds of dollars that 100 people bought, and it brought income into your home. Well, people may not have that now. So maybe I have to pivot, and I have to have some digital products where people who are comfortable doing some self-learning, maybe look at a video, then
Right.
be able to implement it, have a workbook, be able to write it out, because they're not in a position to do that one-on-one, or group coaching,
Right.
where multiple people can reach me at the same time. So a lot of people had to pivot and really become more digital, and more online, and do what we needed to do, of course, from a financial standpoint, because small businesses suffered as well. It wasn't just everyday people that, lost their job to go to work. And so we got to make sure we're helping those people. But at the same time, I'm a believer that I always want to give out of overflow. So what can I do to stay in overflow so that I'm not lacking and I could continue to pour into other people?
Right. Oh, and so you're speaking into what I've been hearing about from so many people that I know in the digital product space. There actually had explosive business returns in during the pandemic for
Absolutely.
probably a number of reasons. People aren't going as many places, so they are able to. They do have time to actually look at a digital product. They're finding we're all online, and I mean, I think there's so many reasons why that has happened. People are paying more attention to what's going on online, and it's just there out of all the things that have driven us all crazy about the pandemic, it has invited a time of like enough still time to like I mean this summit, this whole series is coming out of the fact that like, well, if now to me is the time to learn about finances, multiple streams of income, and multiplying money, like, and it never like in our lifetime we may never see another time where we actually have no we have less obligations because
Absolutely.
we're not around.
It's like globally, we were set down.
I
Globally,
know.
we had to be still. But the crazy thing is, those so many people, initially felt like they lost something at the
Yeah.
beginning of the pandemic, as far as whether it's, business or, dealing with jobs. The level of stillness and creativity that is going to come out of this. Millionaires are going to come out of this because, like you said, your summit was birthed out of this.
Yeah.
So many people have the time on their hands, the thought process, the understanding they need multiple streams of income. All of these, this is a defining moment for many people. Like I had a defining moment years ago. And there's a lot of things that's going to be birthed out of this as well.
Yeah. No, so I have to ask you this really specifically because lots of people get laid off. Lots of people get laid off from their job, and a lot of people don't go out and create multiple streams of income. So what was it in you? Like what was it in you that said that you knew you needed multiple streams of income, you knew not to rely on a job. How did you take those steps in after losing a job that you liked?
No, absolutely.
I
So, yeah.
assume
So
I did.
one of the things, like you said, I think a lot of times, sometimes it does have to be in you. And as they say, a diamond is created in pressure. And the reality is, it would be great if all of us can be forward thinkers and proactive and
Right.
do all of this, but the majority of the world, unfortunately, is reactive.
Right.
And
Mhm.
pressure many times will create a situation where people have to figure out. For me, I was always a dreamer. I always, wanted more. I was that child that when you asked me at 6 years old, what are you going to be? I was like, a star. So what does that mean? Well, in any aspect, how you just like, I don't know, something great. I'm going to be shining bright. From a child's perspective, it's like something in you just knows that it's greatness in you. And at some point and at the appointed time, it is going to happen. And I think that was some of those innate things in you. And then when you have those defining moments, when you have that pressure, when you have your back up against the wall, and for me, I had beautiful children that I needed to make sure I took care of. You have it by any means necessary. We have to make this happen. This is not only for myself, but I have other people looking for me, leaning upon me, and things that I need to do. And so that kind of kicked in. And you just have a moment of, okay, what do I need to do? Where am I lacking? What do
Right.
I need to learn? What resources? Be resourceful.
Be
Look, we have Google University, and YouTube University. You can find out a whole lot. You got to take a step. If you take a step forward, I honestly believe that as you get closer to what you want, things start to get closer to you. You start attracting those things to you.
yes.
People start showing up. Answers start showing up. But you got to speak those things. You got to make a decision, and you got to start executing and be resourceful.
Right. Okay. The decision. The decision, because a lot of people sometimes we don't realize that we've made a decision to give up or to just worry.
Mhm.
And when you have decided to just worry, which I it's valid. I mean, it's valid to have concerns and to have anxiety, but like if you've made a decision that your decision is worrying, then it is very hard to powerfully go forward in a worry state. if only
Mhm.
if that's all you're doing. What did that defining moment teach you about actual financial management? So because you did mention stocks and dividends, so not just knowing that, oh, okay, I'm not relying on one source of income ever again. What did it teach you about managing money?
Well, the first thing that I did, like I said, I actually got into the financial field. And
Right.
so within that, I got an opportunity to learn about how money works. And so typically what we do in our lives, we mimic generationally what we was
Yes.
taught before us. And let's be honest, a lot of times in life, our grandparents didn't know, they couldn't teach our parents, so our parents couldn't teach us. And at
Right.
some point generationally, we need to be able to break that. And so it was about, okay, what do I need to learn? And we need to learn how money works. We all grow up, we all get a job, we all have some type of income source, but we are never taught how this game works. We're all playing it, whether we realize it or not,
Yes.
but we're not taught the rules and we're not taught how to win. And
Mm.
so I had to take the time to be able to learn what are the rules to money
Yeah.
and how do you play this game and how do I play it to win? Just independently, what do I need to do? Just some basics in regards to, and even working in corporate America. I think one thing, a budget is so huge. And the everyday person, a lot of times it can be tedious. People don't really want to do it, but so many people have no idea what's coming in and what's going out. And
Yeah.
they get paid and they wonder why the next day they're broke. They have no idea where their money went. And when you mention budget, people look at that from a lack perspective, like, oh, I'm on a budget.
Immediately. Yes.
Absolutely not. A Fortune 500 company has a budget.
As a
When
budget.
I was the director of a division in a department, they gave me a budget. It had nothing to do with lack. It had everything to do with being able to track and continue to create wealth.
Yes.
And we have to change our mind on how we look at these things and the meaning that we give certain, word associations.
Yes.
There is no way to grow wealth if at the end of the day money comes in and money goes out of these holes in these buckets and we never have anything left or we have no idea where it went. And so there's some basic financial management skills and cash flow management skills that you want to learn and then take it to the next level of being able to build wealth, because we can't build wealth if we don't even know what's coming in or out. And so just taking the time.
Yes, basics like budget. I mean, especially for people who are not living paycheck to paycheck. People
Mhm.
who are not living paycheck to paycheck are almost worse with budget because they know money's coming in.
Yeah.
We get like very free.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
You have enough
Not
and
worrying.
all the bills are going to be paid. All of that. And so what you're spending is not coming from a need, it's just a want. But there you're still spending a lot of money that you're putting back, giving to somebody else, that you're not paying to yourself, that you're not building for your future, that you're not creating for your legacy. And there are a lot of loopholes. And even when I do help a lot of people with their budgets, as crazy as it may sound, I typically will make a person pull 3 month statements of their bank statements. Let's really see what you're doing. In a
Mhm.
huge amount of time, there are multiple purchases or a huge amount of purchases that when I ask, okay, well, what was this $99 on? They have no idea. They
Right.
don't know what they're spending money on or even remember what they spent money on, and they're not tracking it.
They're not tracking. It's like when you go on a diet and someone says, "Let's do a food list." Like let's
Yeah.
start with what are you doing? Like just to cause like just to be mindful of what's going on before you. Anyway, I spoke to a financial advisor who and I thought um, it was put really well, better than I could. He said, "Did the pandemic really?" Did it cause as much economic downturn as it exposed? Because before, early in the pandemic, we were talking just about maybe a month, maybe a couple months maximum of
Mhm.
lockdown. So if we're managing money well, like we shouldn't be like destroyed by a month or two. But the
Exactly.
reality is a lot of businesses, a lot. So if we have this basic, I know, like if we are not managing cash flow in a household way, how do we take that into business? So the same people not managing household budgets are sometimes starting small businesses, and we just, again, a skill we are not taught. It's not
Yeah.
shame. It's not about shame. We're not taught the skill. We're not taught this is right.
It's not, we haven't we have a spending habit, but
Right.
we don't have a savings habit. And like you said, the reality is, I always teach people, the reason that you want to be able to save, no, saving won't create wealth. You can't save your way into wealth. You have to invest your way into wealth.
Exactly.
But what savings does is it takes a crisis and it takes an emergency and it just becomes an inconvenience. See,
Thank you.
when you don't have the money, it is a crisis and
Mm,
it is an emergency.
mm,
But when you have the savings in the bank and the car breakdown, it's just an inconvenience. You
right.
just got to get it fixed and keep moving. And so that's what you want to be able to do. Life will happen. There are some uncontrollables. And so instead of living from emergency to emergency, it's better to just be prepared, handle the inconvenience, and be able to move forward.
Right. And listening to you with like financial ears, like you're really just hitting the pillars of how to manage, how to make this work.
Yeah,
Starting with um, budget, how to budget and cash flow, and awareness, and then from there, um, savings is necessary. You cannot save your way into wealth, but it is absolutely
necessary.
necessary. It's
You
still
have to have
necessary.
an emergency fund because
Mhm.
life will happen. You
Yes.
want to have that, a certain amount that, I always tell people, preferably if you can get up to a year of an emergency fund, that would be amazing. I understand from where people are economically, financially.
Sure.
If you can get 3 to 6 months, at least at minimum, just in case anything happens as a backup, start somewhere.
Yes. Christina, do you think that it's reasonable for a lot for the average person to be able to create digital products or multiple streams of income right now?
Absolutely. And so, one of the things that I do from a multiple streams of income perspective is I help people be able to take the skill sets in whatever purpose they feel they have and create profit. Look, we are all blessed with specific gifts, talents. I don't care if you are great at organizing. How can we monetize this?
Mhm.
If you're great at hair, how can we monetize it? If you whatever you're great at, absolutely there is a need out there, therefore a product can be produced and income can be made.
Right. That is critical. And now we have so many resources for that. We
Yeah.
have so many resources. You can reach so many people. And I don't. I love this talk because I don't think a lot of people, especially people with great jobs, I don't think a lot of people think about that possibility and what that could mean if they're even willing to like take some time and think about what they could do. What are their options? What are the other income stream
Absolutely.
options for them?
And I think people with great jobs, they have to understand that they're using their skills, talent, education, abilities, and they're using it to grow someone else's business and help be able to
Right.
grow that vision and create that wealth. It's okay to take those same talents, gifts, and skills and create something that you can do for yourself.
Mm,
And so the skills are there. I think sometimes people just don't associate it with the ability to do it for themselves,
yes.
because they're doing it on a daily basis for someone else.
Hmm. What do you think is like what's a key takeaway that you would want someone from our audience today to take away about money in the future, the time that we're in right now in the future? What's your key
Got
takeaway?
it. So I guess one of the key things, and if you really tie it into, what's going on right now,
Hmm.
there is a financial philosophy of pay yourself first.
Right.
And if people start doing that, then they'll be in a position where they will always be okay, no matter the circumstances or what's going on. See, we've been taught in the world when you get paid, everybody they pay all their bills, they pay their debt, they pay everything. And then what's left over, they say, I don't have enough money to save. But that's the wrong mindset. When you get paid, I mean, I'm a giver just because of my faith. So outside of doing that, I pay myself first. And what that means is what's left has to be able to pay my bills, pay my debt, and everything else. And the reality is, if I can't save first and still pay all my bills, it just means I'm living above my means. And so I don't want to take away my savings. No, that's important. All the bills and everything else that I pay, I got to make sure I'm living within my means so I can afford those. So there's two things. I'm either going to have to downgrade, cut off the cable, adjust the internet bill, call the phone company, see what I can adjust, or I'm going to have to start making more money. So you got two options, right? You're going to make more money, or you got to adjust your lifestyle, but pay yourself first. Don't pay all your bills and everything and then say, I can't save. No, save what you need to first and make sure your lifestyle is sufficient for the income coming in to pay your bills. And if it's not, you got to downsize, or you got to find a plan to make more money and bring in those multiple streams of income.
Right. Okay. And so I think I have a harder question here is that how do you decide? So I pay yourself first that is a very common, that is very common advice. How do you decide how much to pay yourself when you are paying yourself first? So do you start at the budget, or how do you make that decision?
I would always say, I think it's great if you can out the box start with 10%. If you can automatically put 10% away every time that you get paid, and then what comes out, see, because you got to think about it. The IRS take their money out before you get paid. You don't live off of your gross. You live off of your net. And we never tell the IRS, but I can't afford to pay you. But you got to start thinking, like, for your savings, 10% comes off. It's non-negotiable. Because if the IRS raised their rates, you would have to pay it to them. We can't negotiate. And so you got to make yourself a priority. 10% is getting put away. And then I have to live off of, everything else, being able to put away what I need to as far as, paying the bills and handling household and everything else. But just make sure you prioritize you. If you don't, nobody else will. And no one is going to put that money away for you. The reality is most people don't have $1,000 in the bank after all the years of working. And you look at that. And just one point, I always tell people, it's a question that really makes them think. And I want your viewers to be able to think. Think about what age you were when you first started working. And then think about the age you are now. And how many years is that? And from all those years of working, how much money do you have in the bank to show for it? It's just thought-provoking. It's very thought-provoking. And most people don't have $1,000 after they've worked for 20 years, 25 years.
And the IRS got all their money.
The IRS is getting their money.
They got all their money.
Yes. So I want people to prioritize themselves. Prioritize yourself. It's important.
Yes, I think that is excellent. I think that's an excellent question. I myself I've never put it that way to myself. But I love it. I love that. Christina, I think, first of all, there were just so many gems right here in this interview. So I really just want to thank you for that first. Yes, and so all of your social will be below on our below this email. Okay. And I just, again, thank you for an amazing interview. This was really, really helpful. And I think it really goes to the roots of what we can do right now. I think there's actionable steps here from what you're saying that people can do right now, starting with their bank statements and budget, and not get cringe when they hear budget, and actually create one. Yeah,
absolutely.
An opportunity. Thank you so much again.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.